some of the scenes from the show, which are represented just fine in the main set, are just the same. It's the same thing, but now they've gone. It's a different card. So if you get both cards and it's showing the exact same thing, but they're different cards.
Give me an
now.
example.
So, for example, you have force bending or energy bending.
Energy bending, yeah.
And then you have which shows him doing.
Yeah, when he
Ozai.
depowers Ozai.
And then Force and Negation is exactly the same.
Oh, wait, no, look, there's a worse one. Look at Black Sun Zenith, and then Day of the Black Eclipse, or Day of
yeah, so it's going to... It's the same thing.
So they clearly gave the prompt to the artist, and the artist went, oh, okay, I'll just do that. And then they took the screenshot of the show and went, yeah, we'll just use that, without realising those two things are going to be identical. Yeah, no, should we get into it?
Welcome to Magic the Flavouring, the Magic the Gathering podcast, where we talk about all things Magic, flavour design and lore. I'm your host, Andy Mann.
Hello, this is Nathan Cancel.
And Nathan, as a Christmas gift to me, has forced me, against my will, against my force of will, to talk about a Universes Beyond set.
You said that you were happy to talk about this.
I was happy to talk about Avatar The Last Airbender. I thought that's what we were doing, and now it turns out we're talking about the Magic the Gathering set based on the Avatar The Last Airbender.
God, you're so conceited. Like, I like how you specifically waited until you were at maximum anger before you started launching into the episode. See? Hello, everybody.
You can fucking leave this episode.
Right, good. Well, what a crashing start into the episode. Okay, should we move past some subjectivity into some objectivity?
No, right, come on, right, okay. Avatar The Last Airbender, the latest Universes Beyond set, ostensibly, even though we've just started with Marvel previews.
Yeah.
R.I.P. Lorne Wynn.
Yeah, exactly. The set that everyone really needs to happen that's never going to happen in amongst all of the other IPs that exist in the world.
And it has to be said that Avatar The Last Airbender, or Atla, as I suppose, will just kind of, or Avatar, or whatever.
Technically, Atla's the least amount of syllables.
Sure. And Avatar, of course, refers directly to James Gunn's...
Oh, yeah,
not
Fire
James
and
Gunn,
Ash.
James Cameron's masterpiece.
Yeah. Because we confused Ida's mum with that the other day, trying to explain to her. It's like, oh, so the blue people. It's like, no. Anime.
We're talking specifically about the main set.
Mm-hmm.
Nathan has just introduced me to the Jumpstart set, or the Avatar Eternals, which I obviously knew about, and I obviously understood. But as I was looking through everything, I was like, oh, okay, those must just be like a few promo cards. I don't think I really absorbed the fact that it's an entire set.
It's almost as many. I liken it to that's kind of the set that Spider-Man was supposed to be before they expanded it into a full set. But for Avatar, we not only got the small set that remained a small set, we also got a whole full standard set as well. So there's so much.
We're talking mostly about the standard set,
yeah,
and then we'll reference the fact that there's the other set if there's like gaps we thought they should have filled, and actually it turns out they were in there, and X, Y, and Z. Nathan is going to lead this, not least because I'll just be apoplectic with rage the entire time, but because I think he's thought about it a little bit more than me.
I've just got to put a little bit of structure. This is kind of a little bit old school. We're going to go through the set a little bit of like a flavour blow by blow to kind of see like... So, I mean, before we get into any like mechanics or characters or anything or any of the minutiae or anything, generally speaking, elephant in the room, Spider-Man didn't do so well.
No.
So how nervous do you reckon Watsy were going into this set, being like, well, we have had no time to change anything. We've just got to really hope and hold on that this set is received a little bit better than the Spider-Man one is.
If they're taking just from public opinion, I think even before Spider-Man came out, people were like, Atlas seems like it's going to be kind of okay. And also because it's Magic adjacent, right? It still is Magic adjacent. And the idea of having... So, just for context, I've watched Atla through twice, and obviously, just being part of fandoms, you kind of keep up to date, like tangentially with it as you go. I know Nathan, you've seen it all the way through once as well. I've not seen Legend of Korra.
No, neither have I.
And I've not seen either live action adaptations. Not that I feel like I need to. So,
yeah, plot twist: Shyamalan's film is shit.
even I can sort of see, as someone who doesn't like Universes Beyond inherently, that having these four factions, the four elemental nations, each with their own cultural signifiers, with, martial arts and cultural signifiers based in real world, but kind of like adjacent to it, and they all have like color theming and all this kind of shit, really lends itself to Magic. structural problem number one, there's 4 nations when they tend to do things in 5s because of the 5 colour in the pie. And one of those nations is all but extinct, which is why Aang is the last airbender. So there's no nomads to really play with. And then how do you do the colour pies? There were tricky things.
The show is naturally imbalanced, right?
Yeah.
And I think
that's conceit.
And exactly, that's part of the idea is that the 100-year war that Sozan originally started, there we go, I actually know what I'm talking about, was what, like, for the most part, successful. We kind of do what most stories do, which is when you enter in at the point of where things are bad and unwinnable, and the bad guys are, well, quote-unquote bad guys, but this is an anime, and it's a cartoon. These are the bad guys. They are villains.
Yeah.
Not creature-type villain, but this is why Marvel sucks. But the black and white aspect of the show might not reflect as easily when you're looking at things, instead of being like, okay, an evil character might be doing things for very selfish reasons, like, and black magic is supposed to be about nihilism and selfishness and stuff. Like, you have to kind of separate those two things out. It's very easy to go, fire is red and trees are green and the air is the air is blue, right? So, but we're gonna have to make that white because waterbending has to be blue, and this is where. Yeah, the magic system isn't perfect. And I don't think anyone is saying that it is, but because it actually has a lot of nuance to it, a lot of shows and a lot of other IPs, when they're put into this, because that's what's happening, is we're not just looking at the Avatar through magic, we're actually having to force Avatar through a magic Play-Doh whole thing and squeeze it out. Sometimes those things aren't going to shake out so well because there's more nuance to the colour pie than there is to a children's TV show.
But we were just talking very briefly before we started recording about what my thoughts and feelings were going to be in this, and I kind of feel like that is both Atla's biggest strength as a magic set, but also shows the inherent ludicrousness of doing these Universes Beyond sets in Standard specifically. If this was purely Commander, if this was purely Jumpstart, if this was purely
Secret Lair, something like that,
whatever the fuck, I can't believe I'm conceding this much ground to just try to make a point that sounds even-handed. If it was any one of those things, you could just go, yeah, fucking whatever. Like, because you shouldn't have these characters pigeonholed into being red, blue, white, black, green, whatever else. And actually seeing, for example, just to pick up, like, I don't know, fucking Firelord Zuko next to Sokka Tenacious Tactician. Firelord Zuko's Mardu and Sokka Tactician is Jeskai. Also, the Jeskai's got white and red and blue as being part of a water tribe character. But that makes sense for who he is at the time. Same for the Mardu Firelord Zuko. And having them express these colours in different ways, having Earth Kingdom characters be both Selesnya and then sometimes their Gruul, shows the power of each individual and how they use the elements. Because, not to get into too much, like, I mean, it's pulling from cultures that aren't my own, but like each of the nations uses martial arts styles to express their bending, which gives it the whole flavour. That is kind of sometimes loosely, sometimes more tightly based on real world cultures and martial arts. And so there are going to be certain aspects of discipline, whether it's, something's a bit more aggressive, something's a bit more mindful, something's a bit more defensive, that lends itself to those martial arts. That might then affect how these characters express themselves. But they're still rounded humans. So if I, as someone who is a fairly... I'm someone who kind of confronts and provokes a lot of the time in my day-to-day life, in terms of I don't like sort of sitting back on a problem. I'd rather kind of run headfirst into it, which sometimes gets me into trouble. I could be a part of the Earth Kingdom the same way that someone who's a bit more steadfast and thoughtful might be part of the Earth Kingdom, and we might use the same martial arts and the same power, but we might use it in very different ways. And I think you see this throughout the show. I mean, the show has 4 books or 3? 3 books.
3 books.
Yeah, because they didn't do Air.
No, exactly.
That was meant to be a 4th series that they didn't then do, and then Legend of Korra became Book of Air. So I think that's its greatest strength. The reason it doesn't work, though, especially in Standard, is because you need Standard to have this balanced factional feel where things are neatly signposted in a limited environment, and it doesn't work.
Yeah. It's funny how a Standard set does have, as you put, greater difficulty and a greater requirements for a setting to fit in, right? And I think a really good example for this is how the Badger Mole is like a 5-drop common
Yeah.
And yet the Badger Mole Cub is a 2-drop chase mythic that might potentially get banned. You know, that doesn't make sense from a Atlas point of view. Is that why is the Cub stronger than the Badger Mole adult? And you might say like, oh well, it's not strong because it's only a 2/2, and the Badger Mole adult is a 5/4. It's like, yeah, but I'm not playing the Badger Mole 5/4 because it's just a random. I think it's like a Forest Walker, and it's just a 5/4 big guy. I'm not going to play that in anything, but I'm going to be chasing the little cubby guy. Now, is there a conceit to because it's the cuter, more like, oh, I want to play with the little guy because he's cute kind of thing? Like maybe, but it kind of works. It's antithetical to the world building of Atla to then have the magic requirement of having we need a super low powerful mana generating card out there somewhere, be it in Noble Hierarch or Birds of Paradise or Deathrite Shaman. Like, it's always the way that there's a really low cost powerful mana generator that ends up being very expensive because a lot of decks can then hinge around that. So your standard environment is massively focused on the baby when the adult isn't even played because it's not possibly strong enough. Now, that doesn't work in my mind. Like, it should be that the adult is naturally stronger, and I don't really care about the conceit of a standard set, and it only works because of the standard set. In situations, as you were saying before, like this with Secret Layers, you don't need to worry about the collection of cards being balanced. You don't need to worry about there being a random mechanic that doesn't fit because we don't need eight dozen mechanics in a standard set. And now there are little like throwbacks and stuff within this that we'll get to. But it does. I do take your point. I do think it is quite. It's obvious when you get into the nitty gritty that certain times a Magic set's requirements and the world it is trying to present might not flow quite as comfortably as they would hope. Saying that. That's my pinch of salt to essentially come back to. This is infinitely better than the Spider-Man set. This is something that I think a lot of people are very happy to play in a limited environment. I think Standard's continuing to be a bugbear to a lot of Magic players and all over the place. So I don't really care about it in that regard. But as a fully fledged set, I look through the cards and I can see the care, I can see the attention, I can feel that they have at least tried to balance everything, and it doesn't feel too egregious. And as you said, because there's 4 different elements, and you can what they've essentially done is gone, air is white, water is blue, fire is red, earth is green, and the bad guys are the black tribe.
Yeah.
And as much as that is a little bit like it cuts off of the nuanced edges of Atla a little bit, that does fit the format quite well. And because of that, as a set, it's a little bit more grokkable, and it doesn't feel quite so force-fed. Saying that, should we get into the actual mechanics and see how they're...
So, like, obviously bending is a big part of the world.
Yes.
Avatar: The Last Airbender. And so they had to find a way to do it for Magic, and it really fell flat if we're looking at comparing it to, say, Spider-Man with web slinging, because web slinging just seemed sort of very flim-flammy, nothingy.
It was ninjutsu, but not ninjutsu.
Yeah. And the fact that everything was then web slinging, I know was a lot. So they've got these 4 earthbending, firebending, waterbending, airbending. They should be comparable to each other in a weird way, but they're not. They're not quite symmetrical, are they?
No, there are it's kind of a little bit all over the place, because I think let's start with what I consider to be the weakest, both mechanically and flavorfully. Do you know which one I think that might be?
Airbending.
Interesting. No, I'm just going to go with waterbending.
Okay.
So my concern with waterbending is that I don't read the need to tap a bunch of creatures or artifacts, this convoke aspect to it. I don't grok how that automatically translates into waterbending, and then because that's the only aspect of the mechanic that is waterbending, the thing that happens afterwards could be anything.
Yeah. So
the waterbending is the method to get to the effect, not the effect itself. And I guess the argument against that is that because water is so malleable, and the way that Katara can use water and the waterbenders in general can use water is like is hugely varied. You know, we even in the show you get to things like swamp bending, you get to blood bending as well, like the secret art of blood bending. That's within the set as well. Like there is. You can be defensive with it, you can be aggressive with it, it's healing, like it is a transient thing. Water does live within everything and affect everything, and so for the most part should probably be the strongest thing because it is very present within the world around us and within us as people. But because of that, I just feel like it felt very generic. And trying to build an avatar deck where it's got allies and it's got a bit of the different bendings in it as well. Waterbending was the hardest one for me to find space for, or find cards that I was like, well, this feels really evocative. It doesn't feel overcosted, or even someone like Princess Yue where you're doing an omniscience effect, right? Like that's a bit too broken. Don't want that in the set. That feels or that in the decks. It feels a bit too abusable. But otherwise, it's a bit of a pun. It feels very wishy-washy.
Yeah.
And that's a shame because I think the other three are a bit more evocative because they're simpler and they're trying to express a less wide expression of magic mechanic. And it's also not just like, hey, here's the activation cost for whatever effect. All of the others tend to act in the same way, which I think is a little bit more concise and consistent.
See, isn't that funny? I often thought both times I've watched Avatar, this is going to be, for people who are real Atla heads, they're going to like, this is going to cause controversy. I feel like if I was in the world of bending, water bending would be the weakest one out of all four. On a day-to-day sort of like combat, if we're talking about like a combat usage, for me, earth bending is by far and away the one that's the most powerful. Like if you took an army of earthbenders versus an army of any other kind of bender,
sure,
the earthbenders would win outright, I think. Waterbending.
What if they're on a boat?
What do you mean? What if they're on a boat?
So are you saying? What do you think? Earth. So because this is the issue, right? And I think this is part of why the show works is because you fight different people in different places, and it creates that Shogun effect of like, well, you're the environment effect. Like it massively depends on where you are, right? Yeah. And I get that. For the most part, you as a human are going to be hopefully standing on land, which means your ability with the earth is probably going to be a little bit more.
What do you think? What do you think's underneath the water?
Well, yeah, eventually.
What do you think's above the water?
Yeah, fair.
Firebenders can create fire out of nothing. This is also the other.
So that's the other conceit, right?
So firebenders, obviously, fire's like. I mean, fire is obviously very destructive, but it's all like whatever. If like you put up an earth shield in front of it, or you take away any of its oxygen, it's fucking fucked. But the firebenders can do it out of anywhere.
I guess it's because she always has to have a water skin on her.
She always has a fucking water skin on her. For
always
a start.
Has to be full, yeah. Imagine if you could just go spit into your hand and then zoom, that zips around like the coin, the Magneto does.
That's why when she found out about bloodbending, everyone was like, "Oh my god!" And you're like, "Yeah, you still have to have like if that's where you're going with that, like." Airbenders can just suck the air out of your lungs.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
like firebenders can just boil your blood,
yeah.
And then earthbenders can just like I don't know, snap you in half. Like
when does the calcium in your bones stop not being a rock,
or just like go smash with like the earth? Do you know what I mean? Like it's nothing.
The whole world should be way more brutal. I agree.
Here's another fact. Sorry to derail anymore. I heard on a science podcast the other day. Did you know that water is not native to Earth, to the planet Earth? All of the water that's on the planet, that's in our ecosystem, came to the planet via ice meteors.
Fuck off.
Over billions of years.
Really?
So all of the water that's here now
is alien.
Is like it's
we are fungus people. The Scientologists were right. Oh my god, like, perfect.
It's not like water's not naturally occurring on our planet.
That's so funny. I didn't realise that. So wait, is it naturally occur on any planets?
It must do because ice has to form somewhere. But the only reason our ecosystem works is because water came to this planet
that's so funny.
and then started the whole cycle.
Wonderful. Well, that's cool.
Anyway.
Yeah, the ice meteors, comet, Sozin's comet, firebending. Cool, right, we found our way back. Lovely, right, good. Firebending, I think, is probably the most simple. And the reason I'm going from waterbending to firebending, so if waterbending is typically a more defensive thing, and I usually find that a lot of the abilities are doing something.
Tai Chi, isn't it?
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of the abilities are just doing something that isn't naturally aggressive. It's doing something that's either protective or it does a whole smorgasbord of things. Whereas firebending is pretty fucking simple. When you attack, you get some red mana.
Yeah.
You don't get that red mana doesn't really stick around beyond combat, so you need to be using it now. I'm glad it wasn't burn adjacent. I'm glad it wasn't that when this creature attacks, it does 2 damage to any target or 1 damage to any target. One, I think it's really hard to scale that. Like, firebending itself, where it's adding a ritual effect, as much as it can be very powerful, is way more expressionist, I think, of red, of that temporary moment of power that you have to do something with, have the instinct or the impulse or the innovation to use that in the most effective fashion. The fact it is a combat mechanic, we see that most of the firebenders are aggressive little fucks, and I like that idea of it always being something where they have to use it. What's the main thing that you'll use your mana for if it's only available during combat?
Oh, well, like pump effects.
Combat tricks.
Combat tricks.
Exactly, which then further cements this idea of the firebenders being the aggressive, combative force within the story.
I mean, if you look at it holistically, which Avatar is a very holistic show. It deals with a lot of Asian and South Asian mysticism, because it's not just about, say, like Chinese or Tibetan mysticism as well, because it pulls from a lot of like how like Tarkia does. Like it pulls from a lot of like world sort of cultures and things. Fire is like the symbol of like life and power and light, and they do use that in Avatar to be like, yeah, okay, you have like fire lords or fire mages who use that directly as like, I'm going to use this aggressively and as a weapon, as a tool, but it's all about power and the idea that the sun, is it the sun folk? Who are like the proto Fire Nation people?
That's the sun. Yeah, they are called the sun something. I can't remember what term. Is it going to be?
Sun Warriors.
Sun Warriors. Thank you, yeah.
Like they were all about like the power of life and sort of like focusing on like balance in a way. Like
because technically the entire planet is under the influence of fire at all times.
Yeah. Well, this is it. They all work together, which is why you have an avatar. So yeah, the idea that I think it is really apt that it is about using as power source for the game as opposed to just direct damage, because they all do direct damage. Like you could argue that earthbending should be a direct damage mechanic.
Yeah.
Like
it would be like a fight mechanic or something. I mean, even then, like in the past, things like lava launch or rock launch, things like that would always be red burn spells because it's the mountain falling on you. It's just in the context of this, that's an earthbender thing, so it better be over there in green, which makes sense. Terrain, cool, not an issue. And then there's like a slight, a kind of like an ending flourish to this. The thing I also like about the firebenders is a lot of them will have active abilities on them, so you can use that mana, but usually there'll be more than the amount that particular creature firebends. The idea being the Fire Nation, when they're attacking together, are stronger because their firebending works in concert with each other. Fire with extra fire makes more fire. That does track. That is something that does make sense.
That's why their standing army is the most powerful.
Yeah, exactly. Precisely. Okie dokie. So from fire, we'll go to airbending. This is exiling a non-land permanent. That permanent may be cast for 2 generic mana from the person who owns or the owner or controller of that particular permanent. I like the fact it feels... So the thing I like about airbending is that Aang always felt like he was a perfect foil as this... imagine versus, say, the bride in Kill Bill, who from the very beginning is some kick-ass bitch who's going to go out and cause all kinds of trouble and do all kinds of nasty nonsense. That's really fun to follow because you're like, oh, I can't wait to see what she gets up to next. And then when she finds people that are stronger than her, it's kind of like, oh, how's she going to overcome this? And otherwise, even with a crazy 88, you're never at any point worried for her. She's just going to go out and slash all the fucks up. The thing about Aang is because he's young, because he's naive, he's very unwilling to be aggressive, which works because airbending, as you say, should be very easy to be super destructive. Cool, expand the air in your lungs, you've exploded.
Yeah.
And most of the time, he's just like, oh, miss me, can't get me. I'm really scared of fighting.
Zipping around on his little air
and the whole, his whole arc is that I don't want to fight. I don't want to have to kill. And I think I'm going to have to. And that's real. And he goes through this whole Spider-Man losing his fucking powers kind of thing because he's like, I really can't face the fact that it's me or him, Like, that's a problem. I don't know how to handle that problem. It's not until he goes to the Lion Turtle and learns how to be like, hey, maybe you just zip all of his powers away and that's fine, right? That's a very Aang way of doing things, even though previous avatars didn't need to have such a degree of ambivalence. I'm sure.
I mean, there's lots of lore about some of the previous avatars, including the previous Airbender avatar being like pretty vicious and like no nonsense and like I will just kill anyone.
Biting gale, a little slash of zoof. I imagine it almost like the Wanderer, with a sword of where she like does a slash thing and just like cuts through. Like it's nice that we've got a child avatar because again it creates that the conceit of how are we going to instill all of this strength and honor in someone who essentially has no understanding of it. Obviously, he learns it as he goes on. And then airbending being able to be both offensive because you can use it on your opponent's things to tempo them, which is exactly what I think airbending is. And it's exactly how Aang uses it, is he's a tempo mage.
Yeah.
He's not trying to fight you, he's trying to wear you out and work around you. And even in the first fight against Zuko, it's exactly what he does. Zuko's like actively trying to kill him, and Aang's just like, just please don't touch me. Yeah. I'm not really into this. But then you can also use it reflexively on your own things as a defensive spell. Someone tries to target your thing, or if you've got a wrath coming up, you can airbend your own thing, maybe even just to have it as a way to trigger cast abilities or ETB effects or things like that. So it's very malleable, but it's much more malleable than what I feel like waterbending is, because even though waterbending allows for loads of different effects, airbending is one effect that you can use in lots of different ways.
Yeah.
Which makes it feel a little bit more interesting and more engaging. And then you've probably got the most simple. I know I said that was simple about the firebending, but I think the way you use firebending is a little bit more complicated. Saying that, there is nuance to earthbending. Earthbending is animate a land as a 0/0 and put X counters onto it. Then if that land would die or be exiled, or creature, I guess at that point, you return it to the battlefield tapped. Now, the first thing of just, it's animating lands, that's nothing new. That's nothing new. Loads of different things have done this in the past. Animating lands hasn't historically been very, very, very powerful. Man lands are okay, for the most part. I think they're poor tempo these days. I think not a lot of people use them outside of horrifically control-heavy decks. But the idea that your creatures can die and then come back as lands, and then those lands can be reanimated again, turns out you can do some real tricksy shit with that when you start getting into, like, the metal bending side of things.
I actually feel like earthbending, they did one cool thing, but actually missed the mark on what I feel is the most, like, readable. Because in the show, if I'm going to be here for the vibes based, is this actually like Avatar and whatever the fuck? There's very little elemental making. They're not really imbuing any golems with life or any of this kind of stuff.
They don't feel sentient.
No.
It feels like a tool.
The people are sentient because there are spirits.
It's telepathy, not animist magic, right?
Telekinesis. I guess.
Yes, sorry, it's telekinesis rather than
so
animation.
they're zipping like chunks of earth around, or they're metal bending like how Toph learns to do, and all this kind of stuff. And I think it would have been far more flavorful, if not maybe balanced, and like they could have done whatever to do something. Do you remember the goblin Togo? Is that thing his name is?
Yeah.
Where he throws
one.
rocks.
Yeah.
Turn target land into rock artifact.
So make it more equipment based rather than animating it.
Or like it just becomes a permanent that you can then do things with.
Sure.
This is again why I think it falls flat. This maybe it swings back into my argument. Making this a standard set means that they had to go down certain mechanical like through lines, which have to then like work in a larger context, as opposed to if you had earthbending being this like target land becomes artifact permanent, and then you can in your deck decide how you use that. And then maybe some of the legends have sacrifice X amount of land artifacts, deal damage to so-and-so a thing. Do you know what I mean? And then you're throwing the land at people. Yeah,
it does feel very much like it was halfway there. And the way I justified you return it is that in my mind you're not, the creature has to leave the battlefield for it to satisfy being killed or exiled. Within the show,
like that it comes back.
Yeah, within the show it would be that it wouldn't ever leave, it's just that it's no longer animated. I do like that idea of like you've killed the essence within it that has animated, but you haven't actually destroyed the thing because that rock is still there.
Yeah.
It's just not floating in the air and flying at you anymore.
Are the foggy swamp benders in that episode where they're like in the bayou? They're water benders, are they?
So, yes, they are in... I'm going to
they're in the set
so
because
far.
they're about as close as people come to having like because they do the big like willow tree swamp like mechs that they kind of go around in. I'm pretty sure
they're in the scene cards. Because I bought the 2 scene cards.
And obviously you do get characters that do like
they don't have earthbending or waterbending. They are an XX equal to the number of swamps in the battlefield, and they make all lands that you control swamps in addition to their other.
Foggy swamp benders.
Oh, no, that's maybe, sorry, I'm thinking of the other one. There are also swamp benders in the set.
They're water benders.
Yeah, okay.
Anyway,
right.
So do you know what I mean? But like, and this is actually why I think the strength of the show is, and the strength of not adhering so heavily to the colour pie, even though as a standard set it makes it a bit too muddled and why it doesn't quite work, is that, again, the mechanics of bending within the show matter towards the people and the cultures using it. You also have the sand benders.
I was just about to bring them up,
Do you know what I mean? Where they're earth benders, but...
They are white and black because they sit outside of traditional.
Are sandbenders earthbenders or
they are earthbenders? They don't have either bending on them, but they are considered to be, I guess, earth. I guess it would be semi. You're moving the earth, not the air.
Yes, but they're creating these like
because sand is so light, it looks like it's air almost. I guess it'd be closer, I think, to water bending.
They are earthbending, yeah.
But then the way I'm looking at it is right. Once you get to sand bending. And most of that around, because you're also there moving the air.
Yes.
But then what if you're moving earth that has water in it, like mud?
Yeah.
Where's the line? Where's the line?
I think maybe the message of the show
was that there shouldn't be, and we're all just
everyone's connected.
Everyone's a bender. That's it. That's the story of Atla. Everybody...
Oh, except for people who aren't benders. And imagine being that. Imagine being part of the
normies.
And you're just a normie.
Yeah. I guess that's soccer, right? And the whole point is he had to go through... And even by the end of it, I'm like, no one cares that you've gone through this arc. I don't care.
No one cares that you're a weapons master.
I don't care you've got a meteorite sword. Yeah. Bitch, you can't do shit.
Oh, poor soccer.
Yeah, and I do think that the show does a great job of expressing the very... Because in its basic form, it's like, oh, I'm one of the four. It's like, well, no, because there's definitely nuance within it. And we do actually, thankfully, get a lot of that within the set, and I don't think it's poor at representing that. The fact you have the swab benders, the fact you have the sand benders, the fact you have the blood bender, and the fact they all have their kind of like, oh, this feels different to anything else that's in the set. I like that a lot. So that's enough about bending. There was a couple of returning mechanics, one of which being lessons. Now, we haven't seen lessons in a long-ass time.
No, but we're going to get them again soon, right?
Well, you'd assume so. By now, we hopefully would have had some spoilers, but Marvel happened instead, so
Oh,
I wasn't able to look at any of them. But the way I look at this is that Aang literally learns how to master the elements. And most of the episodes do have this, like, because it's a kid's show, have this morale of, what was the lesson of this week?
Yeah.
You know? And then you can even go as far as, we're looking slightly outside of the set for this, to one of the more iconic cards from the entire collection, which is, that's Rough Buddy. And that's when Sokka and Zuko are talking and they're discussing relationships, and Sokka's like, yeah, well, my first girlfriend turned into the moon.
Yeah, such a good line.
And all Zuko can say is, oh, that's rough,
That's
buddy.
rough, buddy.
And it's one of those, like, I don't mind. It's funny because it's very different to the Spider-Man pointing duplication enchantment thing of where they haven't tried to make the joke, to rewrite the joke. They've just actively used the joke. And it's funny that they've even put it as a lesson because Sokka did learn that day. Well, not that day specifically, but the process of, like, sometimes you just got to get over shit happening. Because I think by this point he's got Suki. I mean, they might not be back together anymore, but, you know, he's moved past it. He's had other girlfriends.
Suki's the best.
Oh, she is the best. But it's quite funny that that's also a lesson because it shows that what I didn't like about Strixhaven, it's like, we're at school. Yeah. We're going to learn and we're going to do some lessons. It's like, great. Cool. And then none of them were good. You know, it was actually really rough. I'm trying to build an Onkawairo deck, and shockingly enough, I have to put all of, like, basically every lesson that can fit in the deck has to go in there to get that
well, the fact they're not usable in Commander is also a bit of a problem.
Yeah, you can't learn in Commander, you know, which makes sense based on a lot of players. But in general, I think it fits a lot better here. They're across all of the colours, and it's just nice that you have firebending lesson, and it's that moment from the show. And it doesn't feel like it's tacked on. It's like, hey, we already have this mechanic. We're not inventing a whole new mechanic. We're actually just able to use it more. And then from a standard environment, it's like, well, we can go back to Strixhaven. We've got lessons here. Maybe there's going to be a lesson deck.
Well, this is where it starts to become very clear that when it's done well, do you know? Oh, I don't want to keep being negative. This again.
You don't have to keep being negative.
No, I choose to. This is another example as I'm thinking about loud of being like, look how well they've done this, and look how much it isn't Magic the Gathering. Because, so, when it's done really poorly, you have we've rewritten the Spider-Man meme joke, we've rewritten it poorly, I mean, it's all just for, like, look at the fucking meme on the card, and it doesn't even make sense as a card top-down. It makes sense to have the lessons from the show be the lessons in the set. The problem I still continue to have with it is, if this was a Magic the Gathering set, like Strixhaven when they brought in lessons, the lessons would be used as a way to explore the world. So they have the mechanic as a storytelling device for us to explore this fantasy setting, right? Not the other way around. They haven't necessarily gone, well, we have lessons in school, how are we going to do this? I guess we'll have to make a mechanic called lessons. And if that is the way that they do it, it's like, that's just very clunky. Surely you would want to, like, explore. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know, it just sort of, I suppose that is the way they do it. I guess my point is that they're not using lessons to explore the themes of Avatar. They have Avatar as a world built already, so they have to put lessons in the set. Do you know what I mean?
I know what you mean. I think it's tricky.
Maybe that is the way.
Because if they hadn't put lessons in, I don't think it would have made the set less. But the fact that they had the opportunity to go, we already have this thing. Why don't we utilize it more? And then there was the light bulb moment of, oh, we're already going back to Strixhaven next year anyway, so there'll be some cross synergy mechanically. I didn't look at them and go, that feels weird. And the only reason I felt like it did feel weird is because I was like, oh, the last time was Strixhaven, and Strixhaven and Avatar to me are very different things. So the fact that they share something makes my brain do a little twist because I'm like, those two cogs don't fit. But then I think that the lessons fit better for here than just having random... Because the lessons in Strixhaven didn't feel like lessons.
No, they didn't.
It didn't feel like you went to class. It just felt like an instant or sorcery. It was like, we're going to name it something that fits, you know? And the fact that Introduction to Annihilation is like, cool, that works, but that doesn't sound like a lesson that I'm learning. That sounds like a repercussion of me, of you know, like when fucking Seamus Finnegan like puts the wrong things in the potion thing and explodes. Like, that's not a lesson. I mean, it's a lesson that you learn, which is follow the fucking recipe and don't put too much explosive stuff into your potion. But it didn't feel necessarily like, oh, okay, that is someone learning something. It felt a lot of, this is someone doing something and they've just called it a lesson. Whereas here I'm like, oh, okay, I can actually see that this is Katara teaching Aang how to use waterbending.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's. I think maybe my large problem with it is, and it's like, because I suppose that is how they do magic sets, isn't it? As they go, right, we have this school setting, we need to come up with a mechanic that evokes this. So maybe I'll kind of eat my own words on that.
And I think sometimes they even go for like splash words and go, hey, we we need classes and we need lessons. How are we going to make it happen? Which is why I don't think it worked so well. I
suppose I just sort of find it works for Avatar because Avatar is such a well-realised world and it is magic adjacent, but it still just shows, even when it's done well, it's an IP that's already written that we have to then wrap around magic stuff. And it's like, well, we already know the world. There's nothing, so here it is. There's nothing new that we're exploring with the themes of Avatar. I haven't learned anything new about Avatar through magic that I didn't already understand. It's now just like they've just created Avatar the card game. I don't want to play Avatar the card game.
I think the problem with that is that I don't think that's the intention, and I think that's probably where I can understand where you're coming from. For me, I already knew that was likely to happen. I don't expect them to like reimagine anything, you know. In fact, the only time they do things like reimagine things is things like Lord of the Rings, and everyone gets angry at Black Aragon. You know, like when they do take artistic license, it's difficult. It's like, well, why are you taking artistic license with something that isn't yours?
But do you know what? But in the same breath, people did get annoyed at Black Aragon.
They did.
Yeah,
it was one of the most controversial.
But isn't that funny to think that still out of all of the universes beyond and sort of pseudo universes beyond with things like fucking Dungeons and Dragons, Lord of the Rings, even. The ones that people go, look how fucking great this set was, are the ones where they explore new things to be like, no, this is magic looking at this IP and not just this IP being shoved through the Play-Doh like we've spoken about.
Yeah.
And this is, I know I'm trying to have my cake and eat it too.
I think
this
you're right,
set is great. It's a really good magic set.
It's because it's softer. I think that's why it works, is because that mould is sometimes very rigid. And that's essentially why I think Spider-Man didn't work, because Spider-Man is a rigid IP. Technically not, because you can be flexible with it, but the way that the magic system was too rigid for such a well-known and established IP that you couldn't fit it through that hole without you seeing it crack and splinter a little bit. The thing about this that works is because it's a softer IP that has a little bit more, I think, people are less precious about it, and there's been less expansion on it. But Avatar, as it is, apart from the Legend of Korra, was a standing by itself thing. There's some comic books and other bits and pieces, whatever. But this was basically just another way to look at that show again that you remember from 20 years ago. And it's a way to get newer audiences to go, hey, this show actually looks quite fun. Maybe I'll go and watch it. Or it's a way for people that watch the show to go, oh, I didn't know that. I mean, I really like this. I mean, I never really thought about Magic before. But hey, if I recognise all of the cards and then they're not and maybe there was a line there for if people who love Avatar come to this set and then see things that weren't in the show because Magic's try to explain something new or look into something else. Maybe those people go, what are you doing? Yeah. That's not my show. And the problem with that is that it's like, yeah, well, what are you doing? This is our game.
So, I mean, I don't want to be too high-minded, especially when we're talking about fucking corporate greed, but like all art, I think, should provoke and sort of challenge a little bit.
Yeah.
I'll really try to stop being negative, because actually I think, I think my negativity is actually being wrapped in a lot of praise for this set. I just think it kind of feeds each other a bit. If you look at, say, I'm looking at the card Leaves on the Vine, which is the saga, one of the only sagas.
Oh, the sagas were next. So.
Okay, well, I'll talk about it and then we'll segue into it. Yeah. Where it's how do you accurately and artistically, because that used to be a template of this podcast, was looking at the artistry of Magic.
It's been a while, isn't it?
Too many fucking memes of Magic. None of it's art.
Hope you like anime still shots of the show.
Is how do we get this heartfelt poem and this scene where a father mourns the anniversary of his son's death, and a character that we've heard about but never seen. But we now in this moment learn a lot about them, or the effect that they have on these characters. Like, it's one of the show's most famous scenes. Watching Iroh.
Do you know why it's even more heartfelt? Apparently, this was the last thing recorded by the voice actor.
Yeah,
I was like, I didn't know that.
Yeah, they changed voice actors halfway through the show.
And this is the last thing that he recorded before leaving the show, which is even greater tragedy to the song.
How do we represent this song on a card? Like, could it be a lesson in itself, X, Y, and Z? And they used sagas, which are some of the most celebrated and malleable card types in all of Magic. You can build whole sets around them, or you can have them sprinkled in. It doesn't matter. And I think, regardless of whether you think the pages of the saga are accurate to the thing, it's all interpretive, and it becomes like a piece of art in the game to represent something that is artistic, and it's just so much more evocative than just like Aang learns to waterbend, and you're like, fucking what? Like, do you know what I mean? This feels like a Magic card.
Yeah.
And that's what I'll say.
Yeah, my thing on sagas was I for some reason thought there were more because the ones that are in here are so poignant.
So good.
Because you've got the Cave of Two Lovers, which is obviously the story that Aang and Katara talk about when they also, because they had a similar journey. That synergy as well was really lovely. The mirroring of their journey as well as the Cave of the Two Lovers.
Secret
I know, wonderful, which is also in the set.
This is good.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where they go, oh, we need to nail this point, and we're going to do it across three different aspects. And then the only other ones that we have in the set are the 5 mythic sagas. 4 legends, Avatar legends, which in the same way songs should always be sagas because they are active stories that have progression, that sit in the space. You hear them until they are finished, like an enchantment should be. The similar thing of a story about the Avatar. And what I like about these sagas, and it's a slightly nuanced way from previous, of where I like the idea that on one side you're telling the story, because that's the old story, and you get to keep telling it. And every time you tell it, you almost go through the motions, and everyone gets to experience the series of events as they happen. But then the one that flips is almost like that was the original version of that story. That's the first time that happened. We're not telling the story. It's almost like you actually went through, and this is you living in that moment, which is why then it manages to flip into the actual Avatar, because this isn't a story of the Avatar. This is their actual journey the first time. And then every other iteration is just the saga side, which I really, really enjoy. We even have the Rise of Sozin, who wasn't an Avatar, but it then completed the 5 cycle. And I think Sozin was probably one of the most important characters in the entire series anyway.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So it makes sense to follow him. But I love this idea of where sagas continue to be a fantastic piece of storytelling, even within other IPs that have their own storytelling. Similarly, we're gonna. Those were all of the big mechanics in the set. There are little bits here and there, like there's a highlight card that I want to talk about a little later. That's another mechanic, but otherwise that's kind of all that's in the set. It's a little bit of Surveil here, a little bit of Scry there. Evergreen mechanics that we otherwise see, but that's about it. Apart from allies. And allies, I think, are done a lot better here. It's funny that we get both allies and ascensions in this set, even though we had them both in Zendikar as well.
I sort of think they're good. I think what I think this is a very good representation of as a Magic set, if I'm going to capitulate to calling it a Magic set, is that we're reaching such a dearth now of individualized mechanics because we are doing these one set blocks. I think we're now hitting a very good point over now. I mean, it takes years to reach these points in game design, and now it has been years since we've had this one set block structure of where they can't just keep making new mechanics that have to go across so many different cards, and because things will just get very samey, or like if it doesn't work, well, that's the whole set in the bin. Mm-hmm. So they are now playing with this idea of going, well, of course we can have Surveil on a couple of cards. Of course there can be a random saga. Why can't one thing have Island Walk if it makes sense for that thing?
Exactly.
And I think actually one of the benefits of kind of bidding through ideas quite quickly is that we're getting to a point now where maybe it'll homogenize, maybe it'll go full circle, and in a couple of years' time, every set will feel the same because everything is everything. But at the moment, we're hitting a point now where good sets are starting to feel like a holistic spread of Magic the Gathering, as opposed to just one note, this is the thing that this set does.
I think they have to learn that lesson. If you're only going to stay on a plane for one set, you can't have that be a miss. You can't have a Battle for Zendikar situation where everyone just ignores the entire set because every mechanic with it was either insipid, worse than a previous mechanic, or generally just forgettable. And I think this is a great expression with allies because this isn't the same thing of where it's like Rally, where ally comes in and does thing. It doesn't do the sliver effect.
Yeah.
It doesn't do the general. If anything, it's not a mechanical So it's not a mechanical addition to the type line. It's a flavorful addition to the type line. And yes, some allies do have the thing of whenever another ally comes in, you get +1/+1. But they're actually like the more normal folks, which would be true. A random group of villagers as a battalion would get stronger the more allies that you have. That's the only thing they need. For everyone else, they're already doing their own thing, but they are also an ally against the Fire Nation, which is essentially how the show's presented. It's the Fire Nation versus everybody else. Yeah. And that's essentially what you get. And it's really easy flavor-wise to look and go like, wait, so this character at this point is an ally, which means that this is Scornful Striker is a human noble ally. Black card, 2/2, first strike. Doesn't matter, none of the things she does, what matters is that, this must be her after she turns.
Yeah.
All of the other versions of her don't have ally on them because that's previous. Same with Fire Lord Zuko. You look and go, I wonder what part of the story that is. Oh, it's at the ally. So that's right at the end. And it makes sense. Then you go, that makes him Mardu because he hasn't really lost who he is as a black-red mage. Very self-driven, obviously a firebender, so you've got the red, but he's also then more about the harmony of community. He's understood about being part of Team Avatar and having to be a part of the collective. And that's where the white then comes in. And I like that it's a flavorful thing rather than a mechanical thing because, you can build a cool allies deck and you can use some of the allies from Zendikar, the better ones. And you can have a couple of rally cards that work for everyone, but otherwise every other card in the deck's just going to work on its own individual basis as well as being a collective flavorful win, which is fantastic. For something that I thought, why are we adding allies back? Why are we adding lessons back when we first got spoilers? I'm like, none of them are egregious. They all actually kind of fit within. They all serve their flavorful and narrative function. I have one last major thing to talk about.
Yeah.
Just touched on it just now. We have multiple versions of characters, very similar to how we were with Spider-Man, of where there was, I can't remember how many, but it must have been at least 100 legends. There isn't that many here, but if you add in Eternal, and then you add in the scene boxes, I'm sure it's got to be getting there.
Well, so I've got a Scryfall open that is both Eternal and main set. Mm-hmm. Let's look at just Aang. Main character, sure.
That's 7.
Aang, Airbending Master. Aang, Air Nomad. Aang, A Lot to Learn. Aang and Katara. Aang at the Crossroads. Aang, Swift Savior. Aang, Last Airbender. And then Avatar Aang.
How was that? That was 8?
Too many.
It's too many, yeah. It's like, I really want to play as Aang. It's like, okay, you get to, in so many ways.
And look, I understand, especially when you're dealing with, again, because this is a fucking TV show and not a Magic the Gathering set, you're dealing with individual characters that have so much pull in the story.
And there's a year's worth of story to tell, right?
And I get it. The same, there are Magic stories where it's like, this is a Teferi story, this is a Chandra story, so they're going to show up. But because they are one aspect to the wider narrative, and because the narrative maybe isn't the whole thing, the game is also a big part of Magic the Gathering, whereas the TV show is a narrative, and that is what it is. You have to put more weight on these characters. I understand that. They have journeys. You could do 3, because it's like a hero journey block structure. But to have 8 of them, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah, I think there's even there's 4 or 5 different appers. There's 3 momos. It does get to a point of where, especially from it must be frustrating from a collecting point of view, but even then from a buying point of view, I've had it multiple times recently because I'm building an Aang deck. I'm like, I need this Momo, and I'll go in, I'm like, yeah, but which one was it?
But it opens the floodgates, and I think this is a lot of thing that people who are like, the sky is falling, clutching your pearls, and a lot of people like me, they get levied against them, is to be like, you keep talking about where does it end? Where does it end? This is the problem. Because if you say, okay, you can have 3 Aangs, because you can have 4 Aangs. Fuck it, you can have 8 Aangs.
Yeah, it would have made sense to have one when he's learned each of the... So have a monocolour, a 2-colour, 3-colour, 4-colour. That would make sense.
And then people go, but if we have 8 Aangs, Momo's my favourite character. Why do we only get 1 Momo? Because he's a fucking lemur. Because he doesn't have character growth.
He's the side character.
Do you know what I mean? I don't need 3 Momos.
Yeah.
Because what's happening
And none of them are representing different things, right?
They've taken... Because this is also what it is. This is the problem with society at large. It's not about what they've done. It's what they've taken from us. By putting in... So in the main set, by putting in 2 Momos into that main set, they've taken away 1 other card.
Yeah.
And they've also meant that 1 extra card slot has to be legendary, which saturates things.
Yeah,
it's whittling away the foundation of what the game is.
I reckon because there are certain times in the Eternal of where like the Jumpstart pack has like a new mythic Aang. It's like, okay, cool, fine, that's a separate version of Aang, separate from the main set, not too egregious. But then there are other times where you have the Blue Spirit, which isn't in the main set.
Not in the main set.
And the only time you can get them is if you happen to know, because you might not even know that there's the Eternal cards, and then you have to go out and buy. And also, Jumpstart's like super random, right? So it might be even hard. Who knows if that card was really good? How much more expensive it would be to then get?
There are so many characters in that side Jumpstart set that should just be in the main set, like Azula's like grandmothers or like her aged attendants.
Yeah.
Like, why are they not in there? The Blue Spirit. We get so many fucking Zuko's. But the one big part of his character where he has that kind of like Batman phase because he doesn't quite know how to express his changing ideals.
And no one knew who that was, of course. No.
Like, that's not in the main fucking set.
Yeah, it's
like,
bizarre, isn't
it? But again, they're having... Because it's the IP... It's Magic working for the IP and not the other way around. And this was something that was levied against Wizards of the Coast very early on for Universes Beyond. I think even as far back as Walking Dead, where it was like, Wizards are capitulating to these other IPs because they are not as strong and powerful. Hasbro is hemorrhaging money. Wizards of the Coast are the fucking nerds of the IP realm. And so when Marvel turns around to them and goes, no, you can't use our shit on your digital card game, Wizard goes, okay, Marvel, and fucking, bootlickers, man. If they really wanted the IP to be like, no, we are the world's most prominent, eminent card game. If you want this IP on here, we'd love to have you. However, we want to be able to do what we want to be able to do. Like, we're not going to maximize growth and sales. We want our mainline format, standard, to include the best, most flavorful things. Put in a Blue Spirit mask into the game. Put in the fucking Zuko cards that you need to do. And, like, I know they get to have their cake and eat it too, because people are going to buy the Jumpstart. But if the whole point of putting it into standard is to have these IPs be the front-facing thing of the game, which is what they want to have, Wizards needs to have the fucking balls to say, well, okay, but then we get to do with your IP what works for our game, and not the other way around.
Yeah.
It doesn't work.
Yeah, I wonder, because also this the other thing is different owners are going to be different levels of precious.
Oh, for sure.
You know what I mean? And one thing to say, kind of moving towards the end, there are various other things we could talk about. I think, by the way, Enchantment Cycle's still the best. Enchantment type's still the best type because you also had the Ascension Cycle and the Shrine Cycle, all which feel like they fit within the set. So Enchantments are the best card type. The art direction is very much a mix of what you'd expect from Magic the Gathering, but also it is that anime-fied kind of style, similar to what they did with Final Fantasy.
Yeah,
it was a combination of Cassie Murphy, Matt Cavotta, and then the co-creator of Avatar, Brian Konietzko.
Which is great.
Sorry if I mispronounced that. And that idea of... This is part of why I think that this works, is because the sensitivity going into the set was like, hey, we know we're doing something that people really like, similar to Final Fantasy. With Marvel, I don't think they really had to go in going, hey, we need to be careful because the owners of this IP really care about it. They went and go, we need to be careful because this is Marvel. And they money.
Yeah.
And we're in the multiverse thing, so money, and we want to really grab on this money. Whereas with all the other things, Assassin's Creed may be separate, Fallout, Warhammer, the smaller supplemental things I think we can ignore. But Final Fantasy was a really good example of like, hey, we have to do this justice, and we did. And Avatar had the opportunity to be as poorly delivered as Spider-Man, but actually probably ended up being more appropriately delivered like Final Fantasy, whilst also being a more appropriate IP than Final Fantasy was.
See, now, my theory on this, and it's something that a lot of people also echoed for Final Fantasy, is that when you deal with IPs that are maybe only presented in one format, so for example, Final Fantasy, as much as it has a lot of key art, is only ever presented in video games or the key art that goes directly along with the marketing. Avatar: The Last Airbender is a finite TV show, and then any of the adjacent products were based on the artwork for the TV show. So it has the same art style.
It's very consistent.
Even if it's art styles that evoke the nature of the thing, but be different artists, be different takes on a theme, be different presentations or something, with different like camera angles, to kind of use a TV term, different like framings, all this kind of stuff. It's exciting and fresh when it's done well. The problem with things like Marvel and stuff like that is that because we have so many different types of stuff, anything they do is going to be very difficult to make it feel like Magic the Gathering. And also then you get art directors from Marvel being like, well, we would never commission that kind of thing.
Yeah, like it's funny how there were very few, as much as I really appreciated the sagas that were comics, what I'd rather have done is just do a comic and then split that comic up into multiple cards.
Yeah.
I know they did one of them, because there's one of the, there's a very cartoony version one, which I'm sure is like 6 cards. And I think it might be from the Spider Society. But they could have done that for other ones as well. And they might, and I feel like it's something they should probably try and do for the Marvel Heroes set coming next year. Because that's like, that for me is like a no-brainer. Like, you love doing these scene boxes, do a comic spread, and then split that up into the different cards. That works for me. What doesn't work for me is things like the I don't even know what they're fucking called, but the screen captures, the reinterpretations of old cards, the reprints with tackiness put on, and it didn't work for Final Fantasy because it was just genuine artwork from the thing, which doesn't. And I think genuine artwork's amazing. Don't get me wrong. It's like, oh, we're using the actual assets. Cool. Don't blow it up to the point of where it looks super
well,
stupid.
They're not rendered in the same quality.
No.
They're not, and also, so here's the other thing. Everyone knows I'm very vibes based on this podcast. I think something that's not talked about enough is what they effectively are. If you're going to strip back all of the idea of like, okay, it's Universe Beyond, it's this, that, and the other. They are Wizards of the Coast sanctioned proxies. That's what they are. They're taking artwork or
that's exactly
skins.
what it is. Yeah.
But the thing is, though, is that say if a proxy artist did exactly the same thing, where they took stills of Atla, blew them up, and did Cruel Tutor or whatever the fuck.
It's exactly the one. Yeah.
People would go, oh, okay, that's a cool idea, because what they're doing is they're not necessarily going, you've not used the 4K version. They've gone, you as a fan of this game have done a cool concept and it looks relatively good. Here's a few bucks, I'd love that thing. But because this is Wizards of the fucking Coast and they're charging us through the nose for a less quality experience, there's no artistry to it.
Yeah.
It's just them going, so you make it difficult. Even though your official policy is that proxies are okay, you actually make it more difficult for people to sell things because of like you could potentially lawsuit them into shit. And now you're just giving us the same slot?
Yeah, and imagine like opening like this really, really cool card and then being like, but it looks jank.
It looks shit.
I don't
and
like
now
it.
I paid like 20 quid for this booster pack.
Yeah. And that's where the value lies, right? So I think you're right. There are elements to this that still reek of they're putting a circle peg in a square hole. But as I said earlier, I think that the circle is a little bit more square and the square hole is a little bit more circular than it has been in the past.
This could have been in another world where Hasbro was doing maybe a little bit better with its other properties and it didn't need to pump the magic cow as much as it needs to. This is the greatest, most artistic secret lair that's ever been produced. And everyone would have been like, gee, Wizards, you really cared about Avatar The Last Airbender and you've done a great job. As it is, they've gone, gee, Wizards, you haven't fucked this standard set up quite as much as you have done everyone else.
Yeah, and I worry that, and I'm glad that it is successful because it would have been a massive shame for this to suffer the sins of Spider-Man, but it's also a shame that Spider-Man had to exist and get pushed so far. There's got to be a fair number of people at WotC that are like, God fucking damn it, Hasbro. Like, you've really ruined this momentum.
Oh, man, I expect everyone is. As much as I'm giving out at Wizards of the Coast being spineless bootlickers, I really am only talking about the C-suite executive.
Yeah.
Because punching up. Everyone who actually makes this game, no one thinks this is a good idea.
No, and you can tell that by the fact that when they get the opportunity to do something justice like with this, they actually follow through on it. So I'm interested to see if Marvel Superheroes has more care and attention. I doubt it for some reason. Again, I think it's the IP tied to Marvel. I'm sure they've been dictated certain things, like we're going to get another Infinity Stone, whatever. Star Trek is aggravatingly far removed from the things that I'm normally interested in, but off the back of Edge of Eternities, I'm willing to see if they, not for me, and I don't think we'd end up doing an episode on it, but for the people that are engaged in it.
Well, I'm a huge Star Trek fan.
Okay, we'll probably do a Trekkie one then.
I'm a huge Star Trek
Had we not had Edge of Eternities this year, you'll look at that and be like, what the fuck? With Edge of Eternities and how well Edge of Eternities came out, I'm looking at that going, I am curious and I am intrigued. especially because it is a sensitive one as well.
It's very strange, and I'm not even angry about it being like, why have they done this? Because we're past that point now. Like
that's a long way.
A lot of this anger that I'm giving it now is more at corporate greed than about the IPs themselves. Right? They're going to do whatever the fuck they want to do. There is something very odd about seeing a live action space fantasy show being painted and drawn in a way that makes it look cartoony.
Yeah. Do you think they're going to do the Doctor Who thing of where they just go for like for like, or do you think they'll do the Lord of the Rings thing and they'll take art? Because
they're already doing like for like.
They are doing
this is wild because obviously you don't know any of this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So one of the cards that got released was for Chancellor Gowron, who's the Klingon.
Right, and it is just him. Okay, so
we
are going to get
like
a Jean-Luc Picard, and it's going to look like Patrick Stewart.
But what they should have done, I know we're getting onto Trek already now. What they should have done,
this is an IP episode, it's fine.
Is they shouldn't have done like sort of cartoonified, realistic fan. They should have gone real abstract with it. Like they should have gone like in a Strad art direction where things can get like a little bit weird and a bit spooky. Because them trying to do like, it's a Magic the Gathering picture of a Klingon. It's like, yeah, but the Klingon looks really silly.
Yeah, because back then, and you look at it now, it does look silly. It's heavy prosthetics.
Yeah.
And it's not shying away from the fact that it's heavy prosthetic. You have to do a lot of like, I mean, I know one of the main things they want to do was they want to do like the Borg wanted to be insect people. And they were like, well, we can't make people look like insects and good, so we're just going to go for machines.
In the first series of TNG, they tried to do like an insect thingamajig.
Yeah,
it looked really weird.
Yeah, it's limitations, right? So I'm curious. I mean, I think this is a great. We'll tie off that. I think that as much as Andy's correct in his chagrin of the IP or UB-IPification of Magic, I feel like sometimes with the window we've got to look through is a disaster and the building's on fire. This is you're looking through the window and it's actually quite pleasant. I wouldn't mind stepping in.
The set is fine.
Yeah.
I don't know if I love the idea that they did another 250 cards for the Eternal Jumpstart thing.
I think that just suffers.
The main set.
Well, this I think is a symptom of the fact that we're making sets now the main sets of the year. So being a standard set, you would have, say, if it was Dominaria, a Dominaria Jumpstart product. So instead of them just doing a separate Jumpstart product, which is another way to get more Magic the Gathering universe stuff into the game, Wizards, just saying. So instead of doing that, they were like, let's just actually do everything we possibly can with Avatar, and we don't need to touch it again.
And look, maybe if they didn't do that, I'd be sat here whinging that they had an opportunity to add the Blue Spirit in and they chose not to. But
that still would have been for the suffrage of one less Momo. So I think you're justified. Anyway, that was an unexpectedly weighted conversation about a Universes Beyond product. I'm glad we don't have to do that another 3 times next year.
Do you want to do Turtles?
No. I mean,
I don't know enough about them. They like pizza. I like pizza. They like pizza.
Do you know what's funny is I think I actually have way more affinity to that than I do with Avatar, just because I grew up with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles more.
I think I know a lot about Ninja Turtles through osmosis. I actually can't tell you whether I've watched more than a single episode of the TV show.
Oh, I definitely have. I was obsessed.
I know about I know the theme song. I think it's just culturally there, right? Because we're 90s kids.
Yeah, exactly. So I care way less. I think it's something that fits a lot worse as well. Not just because there are 4 turtles and Splinter to the 5 colours of magic. Shut up. That's also just because 4s and 5s work as a system for a lot of things.
Are we saying Splinter's black?
No, I think
Raphael's
black. Yeah.
Is he not red?
Raphael's red. Oh god.
But
let's not do this. We'll get there.
Michelangelo's red. Raphael is black.
Is it? And who's the noble one? And then
Leonardo.
Michelangelo's there's Splinter.
Donatello's blue.
Yeah, Donatello's blue.
And what's Splinter?
I guess white, because he brought them together. Maybe I don't know. See, it doesn't work. Do you know what's funny is all of the turtles are green. I don't think any of them are green cards.
Yeah, but that's...
I know. Yeah, because Green Goblin was, and he was a red-black card. Anyway, read the Lorwyn story. It's out. There are some spoilers for it. Thank God we've actually got some Lorwyn spoilers. We've got a couple of hybrid cards, and then a hybrid card, a gold card to look at. I think the full story should be finished by the end of the week, so we're going to read that, and then that's going to be our next episode. We'll talk about Strixhaven, but actually Lorwyn.
We're not doing an end-of-the-year wrap-up this year. Because my doctor told me that my cholesterol's climbing and my blood pressure you can't handle it.
Yeah. maybe
We didn't. I haven't. No, I had blood tests this year. They're actually all
do we
fine.
actually do a year retrospect, but like what? Because we're not even in the new year yet. We've still got another 14 days of this year to go. So we could do a retrospective when we get to January. It feels like we'll discuss it.
We could do it.
Anyway, next episode is going to be story. Go and read the story so you're not lost when we talk about things. That's it. I've run out of words.
Just realised I haven't actually done any of the outro bits and bobs.
You weren't supposed to run out of words. I was allowed to run out of words. You've got more words to say.
Let us know what you think of Avatar: The Last Airbender, the TV show. I don't really care about what you think about the cast.
There is no Magic the Gathering Avatar set in Ba Sing Se.
Very good. That's a
thank you.
reference. Let me know if we should watch Legend of Korra. Would you buy a Legend of Korra secret layer? That's a good one.
Should they have done a Legend of Korra Jumpstart set to supplement the Avatar set instead?
Let us know on our Bluesky account. You can hit us up on our emails, which a few of us do, and we will get it back to you as well. And yeah, that's about it. Alright, I'll do a proper sign off. Thank you so much for listening. This has been Magic the Favourite.
We'll see you soon.